Welcome to the official YouTube channel for the Colin Cowherd podcast. Go on, hit the subscribe button. There it is, so you don't miss any of our football content this season. It has been, if I might say, fantastic. Okay, Detroit beats Green Bay 24-14. Brian Branch got ejected for the Lions in the first half, and I thought,
Can't happen. Can't happen.
I was like, oh my God, it didn't matter. It was 17-3 at half. Jordan Love had a pick six. I thought Jordan Love today was really sloppy. Now, it was raining hard when it started. It got worse. But I think you and I would agree that we thought that was an advantage for Green Bay.
Totally.
And Goff is like 17-21. This is, I think we just have to be honest here. Detroit's the best team in the league. Kansas City's got the trophy room. The team I'm watching now, the way they play, I mean, Green Bay had 10 penalties. Jordan Love had a pick six. I mean, he missed a lot of open throws. Again, some of it's weather. But when you watch Green Bay's youth and talent, and then you watch, remember, Detroit now, those guys aren't as old as San Francisco, but the Lions are older, more mature. They marched into Lambeau today, and it was the grown-ups and the really talented kids. Like, I thought they just put a foot on them really early.
Do you know what I wrote down is about when they really took hold of that game? In that weather and a driving rainstorm, it reminded me of the Belichick Brady teams when they would play a team in awful weather and you would just look up. It's like they are manhandling this team. And historically, this is their first outdoor game of the year. And Goff has been not a very good outdoor player. But I do wonder if you remember that night game, Aaron Rodgers' last game, he outplayed Aaron Rodgers. I mean, thoroughly outplayed him in a early January game. I wonder if he's a different part of having Dan Campbell, like a Harbaugh brother, like a Tomlin uplifting you, that even that extra confidence. They look like a completely different squad. Once Jordan Love threw, to me, I don't want to harp too much on the Brian Branch thing. That cannot happen. We can't be throwing players out. One of my biggest pet peeves in the world is the college thing.
Yeah.
Throwing 99% of these kids will not play in the NFL and throwing them out. In the NFL, I got no problem throwing a 15-yard penalty. But Brian Branch is now their best defensive player and throw him out.
Yeah.
And it didn't even matter. And that's what go back to the Belichick Patriot thing. It's like you could have removed players. They got you in that moment. And the Lions indoor team, like, are they kind of like the greatest show on turf in the early two? No, they kind of have it both. They got that, and they kind of got this Patriots. Even Brady during the game, he's like, listen, this guy has been the most accurate stretch in 3 games, like NFL history, but in this driving rainstorm, you never believe it. And he shows the thing. He's 11 for 11. Like, how is he doing this? And he's been the opposite his whole career. It's been not a inclement weather guy. And today he looked very comfortable. Obviously, Jordan Love's banged up. I thought they should have yanked him at halftime and gone to the other kid, but it wouldn't have mattered much at that point in time. Once he threw that pick six and it's 17-3, didn't it feel like the game was over? I mean, it was going to be hard to score a touchdown in general.
Well, it's really hard, when a defense can't get traction with their feet and we have the better offensive line. I mean, there was a moment, Jahmyr Gibbs had a touchdown run to make it 24-3. The size of the hole for Jahmyr Gibbs, and I'm not joking, it was wider than this desk. It may have been.
You would have scored.
It was 8 feet. I mean, literally, Penei Sewell had moved his guy near the sideline. Brady's like, he's like, look at these tackles. Their offensive line. It rivals that Eagles team when Lane Johnson was healthy and Kelsey about 4 years ago when they were both the best at their position. They are moving. And the Packers defense has been pretty good this year. They moved it all day in the first half.
And we've been talking a lot about Jordan Love and, comparing him. Listen, it's a good thing when Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre's names are coming up. But this was a game in that weather where you cannot turn the ball over. Like, it cannot happen. You have to dominate on the run, running the ball, control the clock, and play defense. And he did a play, which he's done earlier this season, reckless. You cannot afford to be reckless. That's why the Patriots in those games dominated. Brady would never turn the ball over, let alone make a play like that. And even Tom was like, you cannot do that. He tried to lob it over. I don't even know really what he was trying to do. You can't barely grip the ball. He is, I've said before, you asked me, I think a couple weeks ago, could they win the Super Bowl? And I said, they do have the talent. but he is way too much of a roller coaster ride.
Thursday Night Football is on. It's only on Prime Video. Best season yet, packed with big rivalries and even bigger stars. Al Michaels, Kirk Herbstreit, Kaylee Hartung every week. Games you can't miss. Coverage begins at 7 Eastern with football's best party. TNF tonight, Thursday Night Football tonight. If you're not a Prime member, no problem. Sign up. 30-day free trial. Cancel anytime. Thursday Night Football, and it's on Prime Video. Restrictions apply. See Amazon.com/Amazon Prime for details. There was a moment, there was a 2nd and 1, and Brady called him out. And Brady said, dude, it's 2nd and 1. You got 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. You're trailing. You're going to go for it.
And you got a great running back.
And he's rolling right, and he's pump faking, and it's just like Brady. I don't think he wants to be hypercritical of young quarterbacks, but it was like, and I like Jordan a lot, but there are times he's always been more Favre than Rodgers, where he's gonna sling it. And I do think against Detroit you may have to, because Detroit's got better personnel and they're older. But I kind of feel like today's a moment that you'll look at during the season, and we'll revisit this. I think Jordan is going to have another one of these games later, and we'll go back and there was early warning signs, because I really, really like him. And Reed is a remarkable young receiver. Jesus, he's good. But they looked young and sloppy today.
They really do. Listen, I throw these names around when we're talking about these guys, but Rodgers and Favre have a combined 7 most valuable players. I mean, I think, and I'm as guilty as anyone, and LaFleur brings it up. This kid has a long way to go. Like, can you just make back-to-back Pro Bowls? And you have games like today where you're at home. It's a huge advantage for you, and you take your team right out of the game. You're not going to be able to throw 3 touchdowns. And I say this all the time about the Packers. You know, they get some of these home games, and the weather just turns to shit. I mean, I'm looking around the league today. The weather's not that terrible in most places. A little cold. It is awful there. And you're just not going to be able – you're probably going to give up your defense might score a touchdown. You're going to have to run the ball. And the Lions are just a better version of that right now. They're just a better version of a team that can play ugly than the Packers, clearly. That's a rough L, because I think that it'd be stunning now if the Lions don't win that division, right? And all signs point to them being the number 1 seed in the NFC.
Okay, I want to talk about, maybe not long, but Buffalo 30, Miami 27. And I can admit, I've always said, Tua small. There's limitations in the AFC in January with a guy that doesn't have a big arm. But until we get to January, when it's September, October, and November, and maybe early December, Tua today, I think I wrote it down, 25 of 28, 231 yards. Now, it was a crisp day in Buffalo. And I've been critical of, you gave him the bag. He's not winning in Baltimore, in Buffalo, in these cold weather areas. But when I watch him play, and then I watched Miami without him, could I make this argument? He makes the Dolphins really good for 18 weeks, and he may never go on the road and win games. But look around this league, John, half the teams are horrible at quarterback. And I watched Tua today, and I'm like, listen, Miami's a good watch. You can sell tickets. They can compete with anybody. I just don't trust them in January with him on the road. But if you ever won a division, you'd play at home in Miami. It's a different story. I think we know he's small. We know he's not a great athlete. We know he doesn't have a big arm. But I think we have to be honest. We have to be honest about this. The Rams just won, by the way, in a deep ball. Stafford threw an absolute freaking dime to Demarcus Robinson for the win. We started this, folks, if you're listening, with the Rams game 2020 in overtime. Stafford threw a dime into the end zone. Jesus.
The Rams are coming. Keep an eye on them. They're 4-4 now.
They're really young defensively, but that Jared Verse, Jesus. But I want to go back to this, is that not every quarterback, when you're in the AFC right now, Miami's ability to compete, be exciting and fun to watch with Tua, his value is really proven when he didn't play. They were unwatchable. I watched them today. I thought they were going to win. I thought they outplayed Buffalo for most of it.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue Dak comes out of the game. Cooper Rush just looks just like him. I mean,
He does.
it doesn't feel like that big of a gap. I would say this, and I said it when he signed the contract. I understand having a player that can make you competitive and keep you in a playoff mix in the NFL. That's extremely valuable to selling merch.
Right.
But there has to be some sort of line of delineation of paying him like the top guys and just paying him. Like my whole thing with a player like that is like, couldn't you just give him 28 a year? Like, it's not like you should cut him, but I can't be paying him 55 million dollars because he can't go against those guys and be better than. Because you watch him today and you watch him the last 2 weeks, they become a credible football team with him. And their defense
No question.
is atrocious now. He is a 100% a starter in the NFL and a good one. But to me, he's always been closer to 15 than he is 5. And I just can't pay you like 5 if you're 15th. Like James Franklin. Clearly, he's a good football coach.
Yeah.
But paying him like Kirby Smart and like these other guys, like, yeah, you're always going to be disappointed. But you could do way worse. And I think there's got to be some middle ground. And everyone's, well, these are the coaching salaries. These are the quarterback salaries. Like, okay, do that. And then you're always going to be disappointed at the end of the season. But if Tua was making half of what he was making, which would still be an astronomical amount of money, instead of signing for 170 guaranteed or 160, let's say they just give him 90 and $30 million a year. Like, it's a pretty good deal. Starting quarterback, he keeps him in the mix. He's a really good player. But where it gets controversial is you start paying these guys more money than, let's say, Patrick Mahomes. You're like, this makes no sense. This is crazy. It happens in the NBA all the time. We just had to max the guy out. Well, he's not a max player. If you want to do that, you know what your fate's going to be. And yeah. I think I don't quite understand why no GMs like just franchise. What's going to happen, right? And they're always so quick to pay them that money relative to the last guy that signed, and then they find themselves in trouble because the gap between him and Josh, Tua is a good player, and the gap between him and Josh is as big as the gap between Tua and his backups.
Yeah,
and that gap's huge.
Yeah.